Okay, we are live. Welcome to another town hall, folks. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we have some notes. We got our YouTube chat in the lower right there. If anyone says anything there, we can keep an eye on that. Nobody in there yet. Okay, well, that's pretty. Where are you at, John?
At me, oh, I'm just out walking the dog. I
Hmm.
hope you don't mind.
Of course not.
Rochester, New York.
Let's see. Do you happen to know if Ben is going to be available today?
I assume he is, but I don't know.
We have a meeting with
And
him
no,
at noon, so I
Okay.
know he's around today because he and I are doing a training.
I will try to handle notes until he gets here. It's just gonna slow me down a bit.
I'm messaging him now.
And Veld, have you introduce yourself in a moment, Tobias and Adam Jennings. Okay. So introductions, we usually like to start with a quick introduction for people that we're not as familiar with. And that means you, Tobias. I don't know if I've met you. You want to introduce yourself and let us know where you're from and how you found us?
Yes, I'm from Belgium. I'm an engineering student in electronics and ICT. I like 3D printing, and I have a 3D printer at home.
Excellent.
I found this. Yeah, English is my second language.
It's okay,
This
you're doing great.
community, I found this community by another YouTube video on prosthetic legs for animals, and I found it so interesting. I googled more on it, and I found this. And yes,
Excellent. Well,
I
I'm glad you
found
found
this
us.
community very interesting.
So this is a weekly meeting that we do called the Town Hall, and this particular meeting is more about sort of talking through any issues, challenges, projects that we have going on, coordinating our activities. And you're more than welcome to join for this. I suspect that you might find this one a little bit less interesting, but you're welcome to hang with us if you're available. The reason I'm mentioning that is in an hour after this meeting. So this meeting will end in an hour, and then an hour after it ends, I don't know if that's too late for you, we're having a new members meetup today. And that would be a really good one for you to join, because that's when new members come and introduce themselves, and we help them to sort of find their way to what they want to do within the community, and we'll help connect you with the resources that you need. So you're more than welcome to join us here, but I think the new member meetup will probably be more useful to you, and that starts 2 hours from now, essentially.
Okay, yeah. Maybe I joined the wrong one. I thought this was the...
it's not really the wrong. It's just there's an even more right one where you're quite welcome.
Yeah, you're
Tobias,
very welcome.
I did want to say, Tobias, if you give us your email, then Ben can send you, if you haven't already seen it, the calendar of events, which will include today's event and others coming up this month.
Yes, I can type my email in chat, maybe.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Put it in chat. And whenever you go to the hub on the main forum link, which I'm showing now, that's the button here in the toolbar, you'll see this panel of upcoming events right here. And this second one, new member meetup, is the one I'm talking about. So you can also click on that, and that has the details, and it has the Zoom link right in here. And like I said, that starts 1 p.m. Eastern time, which is 2 hours from now.
Okay, we'll be there also.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Very good.
You're welcome to stay with us if you're available. It's good to have you with us. And Ben, glad you could join. Can I hand note taking over to you now?
Sure.
Thank you. It slows me down when I try to do it. All right, so action items, not much progress here. I still need to redirect our chapters email. I haven't done that because I need to get in and mess with DNS, and I just haven't had time yet. Adam, I know you are working to coordinate a meeting or discussion amongst our emerging leadership team. Any updates there? Have we had any progress? I don't know if you've stepped away or if you're just muted, Adam. You might have stepped away.
I'm muted and having trouble unmuting myself. Hey,
Oh,
sorry
okay.
about that. Sorry, you're getting some background noise. I'm walking home from dropping my kid off at school.
Oh, no problem.
So I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? It's kind of windy where I am.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just wondering if there's any progress on coordinating a meeting or a discussion amongst the leadership team.
No, not amongst the leadership team. Ben has been assisting me in getting some time set up for the healthcare roundtable.
Okay.
But no, and to be completely transparent, I haven't put a lot of elbow grease into getting the leadership team together.
No, I
Since we last
understand
spoke.
it can be very challenging to coordinate. As soon as you get more than 2 or 3 people involved, it can be a real challenge.
Yeah.
So it'll take time.
I DM Dungeons and Dragons campaigns with a bunch of engineers, so I'm very familiar with how hard it is to get people's
Well,
calendars together.
You're well suited then.
It is worth mentioning that in the space, in the leadership space that Adam set up, there was a post from Eric Bubar about a grant, I think related to Microsoft Office.
Oh, that's
that
right.
He was interested in applying for, and that could be potentially a way to bring some people together. I know there's nothing that brings educators together more than a
And
grant.
funding opportunities.
Funding.
Yeah, that's an excellent.
Maybe a
I
concept.
saw that and I got really excited, and then I like fell asleep 30 seconds later because I saw it in the middle of the night.
Yeah, in
and
the
completely
past,
forgot to follow up.
in the past, we've had some luck doing these collaboratively. Like if somebody takes the lead and sets up a Google Doc and starts to draft what we need to apply, that gives us an opportunity to work asynchronously. And it might actually be a nice tool to start to get the leadership team working together on something, even if we can't find a time to meet. So maybe just a shared Google Doc and some collaborative editing might be worth a shot on this. Just a thought.
It's a great thought.
Good idea.
Ben, let's connect after this call to figure out the best way to do that, if that sounds good to you.
Yeah, I'm going to have a quick sort of like a workshop type session with Rick and anybody else who's available about setting up the community meetings, and maybe after that we can, with the same group, check in about the next steps with this leadership stuff.
Yeah, I think I was invited to that as well. So yeah, I'll be there.
Okay,
Excellent.
awesome.
Ben, are you going to be showing them how to set up the live streams ahead of time so that it shows up as an event on YouTube?
This is
Awesome.
we've done a couple of these. You know, I think it's one of those things where you just, I think if we kind of have some regular practice sessions, it'll be less daunting.
Excellent. Yeah, it is very counterintuitive at first, but it is a repeatable series of steps that once you go through it a few times, it's not too hard. It takes me just a few minutes to set up now that I've gone through it enough.
Although
Right.
I must say that I do tend to fumble every once in a while. In the chapter leaders meeting, I signed in, but it wasn't in the e-NABLE account. It was in sort of my account. So I was thinking, nobody's showing up. What's the deal? And then realized I'm not going to get any of the sort of admit this person notifications. So it was. So that to be said, you know, I've been doing this for a while, and
that adds another layer of complexity, having to manage multiple Zoom accounts. That's true.
Yeah, so I still make mistakes, but we'll have a little practice session after this for anybody who's interested.
Okay, great. So then other action items, John and Ben we're going to meet with Ian to talk about interns and educators. I saw that he just replied. Was it this morning?
Fresh off the press a few minutes ago.
Yeah. So what did he say? He has one intern. He's just getting over COVID himself. Sorry to hear that, Ian. And he said he has one intern. I don't know if I can find it real quick here.
Yep. Yeah, it's one intern, and he thought that in a few weeks, the intern Noosh would be able to with a few interviews under his belt, be able to discuss the data at the town hall meeting and share the plan.
Okay.
He also mentioned that the intern is working with Neil Gershenfeld. Neil Gershenfeld is the founder of the Fab Foundation and a very big figure internationally. So that's
It's actually
essentially
it's Joel Gershenfeld, Neil's brother.
that's true. I stand corrected.
I don't know either. I'm just reading.
And in fact, so Joel supervised one of the other Brandeis interns in the past. Anyway, also a very good guy.
Okay, so he's saying for a town hall meeting, it might make sense to wait another 2 weeks until he's got some progress. So hopefully we'll have them join us in a couple of weeks and we'll get a more detailed update on what they're up to. That would be great. All right, on we go. Last one is for me to share my 3D Universe public facing knowledge base articles with Ben, because we have some e-NABLE related articles in here about which 3D printer to get, how to get your classroom involved, some frequently asked questions, somebody wanting to print parts but not assemble them, et cetera, et cetera. I sent these to you, Ben. I don't know how much, how useful this would be. I'm happy to do anything with this if you see a way to make use of it. As I mentioned in the email, I'm also hesitant to further complicate our infrastructure by adding another website into the mix. So maybe it's a matter of just copying some of the content I have. If you think some of these are useful, maybe we just copy them into a wiki on the hub or something. I'm open to suggestions, but I sent it to you for your thoughts.
Great. And that I know that we only have one intern.
Another.
Yes, John.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say the other thing to consider is you could put it in an iframe in the hub so that people don't have to learn what it is, but as you update it, it would still be refreshed.
That's true. I'm not crazy about putting things in iframes when they have, I don't know if you're seeing my screen, John, but you got this upper menu and, title bar and all that. And it's sometimes a little weird when you have, like this menu would be embedded and then you'd have the hub menu up on top of that. And it can get a little bit confusing. If I could just embed like this one
Fair enough.
section here, that would be great, but I don't know if I can do that. It's worth looking at though. Maybe there's a way of embedding a partial section. Or if nothing else, I suppose, if you go to an individual article, maybe there's a way of just embedding that one article. It's something I'll have to look at. It's not a bad idea, John. I just have to figure out if there's a good way of doing it that doesn't, make things even more convoluted.
Okie doke.
So that's to be worked on. But I'll take this off because I did send them to Ben for now. So upcoming presentations, I guess I should put on here, what was the name? Nush, N-U-S-H, Nush, Brandeis intern. And this would be, let's see, around, what is 2 weeks from today? Around the end of the month. So I'll just say around September 30th, but not necessarily that day, just somewhere around there. So we have it on our radar. Okay, key metrics. I don't think there was anything really too noteworthy here. Pretty typical levels of activity. Remember that our number of chapters is kind of unknown. I dropped it to 200 because I think we've probably had a couple that have been inactive, but since we need to do an audit, I figured we'll just keep it as a round number until we figure out exactly how many we do have. So I'm calling it 200 for now. On we go. All right, from the hub, a couple of posts that I wanted to call attention to this week. The first one is from Dina Kiosis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Teacher who has said she's looking to buy an elbow actuated e-NABLE arm device for a student in her class so she can play the ukulele. And we had a couple of people that jumped in and commented. Vakil was kind enough to say, no, you can't buy one. They're all free, which she's absolutely correct. Tanya offered the help from her chapter, Sage Prosthetics. Vakil's questions were good. He's asking for some clarifying questions about the anatomy and what the student wants to be able to do, etc. Jeff Yin echoed those same questions. He said that he created a prosthesis for his daughter to play viola. And so he's asking for pictures. Holly Martin is happy to help, and Bonita Gachnik. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Jeff, we'd be interested. Let us know if you'd like to help. So several offers for help, but we've done some of these sort of function specific devices. I can't remember if we've ever done one for ukulele, but it would probably be pretty, I mean, it's just a small guitar, right? So is anyone aware of existing devices that we should be looking at, existing designs? Looking at
No,
you,
I hope we're assuming that ukulele. Right, I'm hoping that it's the pick end of the ukulele that we're going to be facilitating.
Oh yeah, yeah. It would be very hard to use a device to play chords. Although Rick has had great success in just doing alternate tuning on guitars so that you can play open chords more easily, things like that. So there are tunings that make it much easier to play without that left hand doing chords, especially if you get into slide. Now, I've never seen anyone play a ukulele with a slide, but I guess, you know, it's a possibility.
You know, I
Didn't
didn't
someone
see
post
the
in the
post.
hub last week about a locking finger mechanism?
Okay. I didn't see that.
Well, I was thinking that I play ukulele myself, and I was wondering if you know, you could have, I don't know, positions for what would it be? I mean, I guess it wouldn't be limited by number of chords. It's just the degrees of freedom in the digits.
I guess I just you know I don't play ukulele, but I play guitar, and knowing how drastically your fingers have to change position to play different chords, I wonder how we would facilitate that unless it was just an open tuning where you're just, you know, covering the whole fret like with a capo or something, or a slide.
Well, and actually, capo is exactly what I was thinking of. But like, would it be possible to have something like a capo that could be raised up in a couple of places so that at the very
Well, they
least
have those. Yeah, they have partial capos that you can use to hold down, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 strings and play more.
Interesting.
Yeah, they have those. You know, the challenge again comes in when you need to change, when you need to move that or move to a different set of chords. And again, open tuning can help to some extent with that, but it's, you know, it's limiting. It limits kind of the kinds of things you can play, but you know, it's good to keep all of our options open. I don't know, you know, let's first things first, let's find out exactly what we're talking about here. Because if it's the right band, then, you know, strumming is definitely doable. And I think we already have some devices with pick attachments. I know Nate has made something like that, and it could probably be adapted. So let's wait for details and pictures. Just wanted to call that to our attention, and maybe we'll check in on it again. The other one that
Well, Jeremy, I would just counter that rather than, no, sorry, I just had a pun I had to sneak in. Rather than limiting, I would say it's e-enabling. But
right you are. Okay, so Prisha Vadel is a student in the UK who is hoping to make an enabled device. Nothing especially interesting there. He got some good comments and offers of support, but the reason I wanted to call attention to this one is, let's see, he's hoping to make a design for a 13-year-old boy who's going to his school, and he currently has a cosmetic hand, but it's difficult for him to play basketball. Okay, well, that's actually not an easy challenge either. You need a pretty robust device for that. But what I found particularly interesting about this was our friend Nate, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Macabwag. John, am I thinking of the right Nate here? The one that we talked to that was making prosthetic devices in the UK? Is that this Nate?
Correct. That's Nate Macabwag. Yes.
So he gave a link to his site, which, God, I guess they've made progress, because I saw this and it really was impressive. Just watching some of these. How do I get rid of this here? There we go. Some of these videos they have playing in the background, very, I don't know, very robust, functional. There's one playing a guitar, interesting looking devices. So I just, aside from this particular ticket, I'm thinking I would love to catch up on what they're doing. They've got some very cool looking sort of functional or, you know, task specific devices here. And I'd love to find out more about what they're doing and how we might be able to, you know, send people their way if appropriate, or somehow else partner with them. So I don't know.
I tried to get Nate to come to the chapter leaders meeting not too long ago, and he didn't respond. But if he's responded on the hub, that is another opportunity to engage him. I'm very keen on their approach.
Yeah, it looks really nice. So Ben, do you want to maybe try to see if you can, I don't know, reply on that? That's the wrong one. Reply on that thread here where he commented.
Yeah, I'll reply with this video so he can watch.
Oh, there it is.
Nate did join one of our chapter leader meetings. We were talking about, I think, sort of early, I don't know, different things that we could do for the effort in Ukraine.
Oh, excellent.
I think that might have been in April. I forget which month. So he was in the discussion then.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can reach out and get an update on where they're at. It looks like they've made a lot of progress. That's great. Okay, so it was only those 2 posts that I wanted to highlight this week. As far as our recurring events, we've got the one I already mentioned today is the new member meetup coming up an hour after the conclusion of this meeting, and the details in the link are in the hub. We've got a number of other meetings that are happening. Do we have a summary yet for September, Ben? Is that in the?
We do.
Okay.
Now it's not in that side panel. So if you go to Wiki, yep,
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
update it in the.
Here we
Yep.
go. So for our September events, you want to walk us through what we have left here, Ben?
Yep. So we've had, and again, the way that it's set up is it goes down on the left and then down on the right.
Okay. So this is the one today.
Correct. So today we'll have the new member meetup. We have on Monday, we're going to be meeting with Ian, and I think Ian will be, I hope, bringing along bring along Noosh, and they'll be talking about plans for the academic year and then opening up discussions to other folks related to education.
Great.
We have Kyle joining us on Friday of next week, looking at his recent trip to Tanzania.
Okay, so it'll be next Friday.
Mm-hmm. And then the following Monday will be sort of a pilot community meeting with the e-NABLE healthcare professionals, and we did get
Nice.
Tianara de los Santos Bina from Brazil. She's going to be sharing her master's thesis, talking a little bit about printing quality protocol, but the larger discussion about the value for e-NABLE healthcare professionals of participating. I know Adam has some really great things that he wanted to talk about in terms of how we get sort of the community to participate and engage.
Excellent.
Ben, I don't know if Everton is paying attention to this, but with his connections to the healthcare professionals in Brazil, it'd be great to have him or one of his colleagues alerted to that meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did tag him when she first posted her master's thesis.
Great.
But it might be worth just following up with him on WhatsApp.
Okay, on we go. Let's see, I don't think we have anyone.
Before we depart from Ben's presentation, Ben, you should review with us your imminent change in status. That's going to be news to this group, I think.
Yeah, so now again, this is all sort of in process, but over the summer, Rochester, New York, where I'm living these days, had a sort of a crisis with a teacher shortage. They had about 400 positions short in the city school district. So I threw my hat in the ring, didn't hear anything back until the first day of school. And then sort of got an offer for a teaching position here in Rochester. That is, I'm going through the steps with that, but it's been taking a little bit of time. I didn't want to mention anything until sort of I actually had a sort of a clear plan of what the transition process might look like. That being the case, the administration has a lot of stuff going on, but that would definitely shift the time that I would be able to spend doing this kind of work. So looking into having maybe an intern transition into covering some of this stuff, and yeah, I wouldn't be able to join meetings if I had a class during the same time. So
Well, congratulations, first of all. Are you, you'd make a great teacher, Ben. Are you certified, or are they allowing you to teach without that because of the crisis?
Yeah, I have a master's,
Oh,
so
okay.
that was enough for teaching, and
Yeah.
I think they also have programs where you can get this certification in process. So,
That's great, man. Lucky students. You're gonna be a great teacher.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
oh, thanks. But
I don't
again,
think he said he's going to be an art teacher, but the definition of art is broad enough that it may well involve e-NABLE relevant stuff as well.
That's
Wow.
great.
yeah, it's interesting. It's at a school that's all international refugee students. There's a program here in Rochester to provide, language services and sort of a transition plan for students that are arriving that don't have fluent English. So the school has, I think there's 35 languages that the students speak. They're from all over the world. A lot of students from Afghanistan, a big flood of students coming in from Ukraine. So and Rochester is one of the main cities in the US that supports sort of incoming refugee families. So.
Very cool. Well, good luck with that, Ben. It sounds like a great opportunity for them and for you. Okay. Well, let's see. On to our regular topics here. We already kind of covered the healthcare roundtable, which has been scheduled for September 26th. So looking forward to that. So let's just move on. Adam, any updates on your efforts in Afghanistan?
I am continuing to receive information from our contacts on the ground there. Dr. Sangin, Dr. Poya. Dr. Sangin is just as a reminder, the head of the hospital. Dr. Poya is the head of the P&O department. We have a meeting, Ben and I, with Dr. Mehan, who is based in the States this afternoon. And I'd like to, the main purpose for that meeting is to make sure that there's continuing progress being done on the logistics side to actually get things shipped out and start breaking this into some phases. What is success going to look like the short term and the long term. What I am a little concerned about is most of the cases that are being sent my way right now are lower extremity. And there are some arms thrown in as well, but I know that we don't have the capacity to supply hundreds of legs to folks, as I understand it. So I want to make sure that what the bulk of the skill and capacity of this community is being communicated well, and that's one of the level setting things I'm hoping to have this afternoon. I know Dr. Mehan knows that, but I think that what with the poor internet connection and some language barrier confusion that may be going on, I want to make sure that I haven't misrepresented what we're capable of providing. So but that's about what we have so far. I haven't heard anything from Dr. Sangin about any additional contact with the Red Cross or UNICEF or the WHO. I know that he is in the midst of working through the National Health Minister to try to establish some contact there. But I know Dr. Mehan also has some connections with the ICRC in that region. And hopefully we can start getting a little bit of traction there. I'd like to, I said I didn't have a lot of updates, but man, I guess I do. I'd like to start sharing the cases that have been provided to me, the potential recipients with, at the very least, this team at some point the next week, so we can talk about how these things are going to be allocated and how they're going to be grabbed, whether that's done in the hub or elsewhere. Because that's the point at which I've got a big black box of a knowledge gap that I'm not really sure how to reconcile. So yeah, if we can address that gap, I think we'll be in a good position.
Sounds good. Let me know if I can help there. Obviously, we have the e-NABLE Web Central platform. I think that's probably not the right tool for this because we don't need that extra complexity in the process. We want something that's very simple for this. So honestly, the first thing that comes to mind to me would be a simple spreadsheet. If you just have a Google sheet and you put one case per row, and you have columns for, who's taking each one on, and the details for,
Yep.
device type and scale and all that. And that way you have everything tracked in one place. Everyone on the team would have access to that, and they could update their status. That might
Yep.
be the easiest way.
So I've made that, and I shared it prior to the case collection, and
Okay.
I'm a little confused as to whether it's not being used because they're not able to access the sheet, or it's. I suspect that Dr. Poya's spoken language might be a little bit better than his receptive, because I can understand him perfectly well, but sometimes I feel like what I'm saying it isn't reaching the mark. And so this is where one of the reasons I went to talk to Dr. Mahan, just make sure that what I'm communicating is reaching their ears correctly. But yeah, I'm getting images of handwritten notes for all of these, which is great. I can transcribe them, but it's really not tenable long term to use that as the communication method. So yeah, all of which I'm hoping we can start to iron out this afternoon.
Okay, and have we managed to get you in contact with Ahmad from Syria, who's done work with legs?
Well, I don't think so. If that's been shared with me, it completely flew out of my mind. I apologize. This has been kind of
it's okay. But he might be worth talking to, because he shared a presentation once in the past, and they definitely have had some success fabricating leg devices using some metal components for the core, but with some 3D printing on the feet elements. And I don't know what their capacity is. I don't know if they're in a position to help, but it would be worth talking to them.
That's a really great point, Jeremy. I sent Adam a list of some sort of regional chapters that are doing important work. The chapter in Syria being one of them, and I think not just in terms of lower limb expertise, but if thinking about trying to sort of kickstart a regional effort, it's going to be a lot more sustainable than trying to figure out how from the US we can be shipping this stuff over and trying to maintain that. So there's also the Pakistan chapter. Turkey just sent an email earlier today about the efforts that they're doing. I know they've got some really wonderful partnerships, and they're working pretty closely with folks in the region. So I also included as an example chapter spotlight. Thai Reach, I think, would be really worth checking in with, because they're a chapter within a department of a hospital system. And I think in terms of long-term support for these folks, not just sort of being able to give a device, but to be able to track it and fit it. And it sounds like you've been mapping a really good network within the hospital system in Kabul. That might be sort of a model.
Yeah, I think, and I apologize, Ben. I haven't reached out. Ben, I should note on the subject of updates in this front, spent a great deal of time on the phone with me last week, walking through these ideas, and he has proven himself yet again to be a great wealth of information in this in this sphere. But yeah, we will. I think I should have a little bit more air next week to try to start contacting those chapter sites, Ben, and hopefully trying to get something like a coalition, as we discussed.
The doctor that you scheduled a meeting with today, he's based in the U.S.?
That's right. He's from Afghanistan originally, and he's the person who put me in touch with Dr. Singhin in Kabul. The two of them go way back, apparently. But yeah, Dr. Mahan went to the same. I completed a course credit for my MBA through the University of Missouri's School of Public Health, and he completed his MPH there. So a professor put us in touch. But yeah, I believe he's actually, I know he was living in California for a while. He might be in New York now. I don't remember where he's currently living.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll be meeting this afternoon. I've confirmed with him the time, which will be 3 Central Time.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be able to join for a little bit then. It might be worthwhile if we could, if we draft sort of kind of an introduction, like a 1-paragraph introduction to this project, that could be
Right.
sent out to Ahmad and Assad and some of the other folks in the region, maybe after that call. Maybe the point of that call could be sort of figuring out how we can set up a meeting with the folks in Afghanistan and some of the regional partners just to share the need and some of the expertise. And I think Ahmad is probably going to be a pretty key player if he's got the bandwidth for it.
Okay, perfect.
And
That's
Ben
very
did a profile. Ben wrote a profile a year or two ago about the Syria chapter, which would be good background for you, Adam.
excellent.
Okay, and since Ben mentioned Zeynep in Turkey, I hadn't seen the email yet, so I went and pulled it up, and there's some interesting news there. They've been working on a documentary project. They have funding from the Turkish Ministry of Culture, and they've been filming for a while, so it's already a work in progress. The producers have also applied for other funds, and recently the project was selected as a finalist in a Japanese prize competition for educational media, and they want to apply for some other funds as well. They want to include more of the international parts of the story, so she has some questions for us that I'll let you guys look at the email for. Basically looking at other, I think she's looking for other good video content. She found one of my interviews from years ago, and she's asking what else we have. Asking about chapters in the UK and Team Unlimited and etc. So I'll let you guys look at the email, but I mentioned that because that strikes me as something that Adam, you might be interested in as outreach coordinator, because that sounds like if they're successful in getting these documentaries out there, that could really do a lot to help, develop some awareness if we direct it the right way and know where to send people.
And
Yep,
Turkey
I think it's
is a Muslim country, which may resonate with Afghanistan.
Mhm.
And I had another point I wanted to make about this, and it escapes me, so I will stop talking.
Okay. So what else?
You're a better person than me. I usually just keep blathering
All
until it
right,
comes to
we'll
me.
take a quick look at our open tickets. I don't think there's much here. Let's see.
We did meet with the Harris County Public Library folks.
Oh, good. How'd that go?
Kamiko was really super inspiring to chat with. She's got this whole network. Her background is super impressive, and basically it was just encouraging her to keep doing what she's doing.
Excellent. Okay. And
I
then
don't know,
I
John,
guess
if you want to add anything to
in
that.
time, I guess we're still looking at kind of adding layers of information to our map where we might highlight things like that, like libraries with printers and stuff like that, right?
Yes, and we did discuss that.
Okay.
Yeah, everything Ben said is true. She's also got an amazingly interesting background. She's a Black woman. She was training to be an astronaut. She got a degree in mathematics. She was teaching. Now she's teaching in the library system. All of her sites. She's got 26 sites, and she does classes at all of them. So she's really
Oh my goodness.
combined the outfitting of the library with the teaching, and she's a powerhouse. Well, I'm hoping
I'll
she'll
say
stay
that's
involved.
that's like teaching at 26 schools. My goodness.
That's right.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and she does seem like she'd be a good fit for, once things sort of settle into how she can manage e-NABLE within that system. She could be a really great resource for
Absolutely.
e-NABLE education and getting more involved with some of the schools and universities.
That's right.
Rice universities.
Did you guys
pretty
make her aware of the educational meetups? I'd love to see her be able to join one of those.
Yep, and it sounds like she's got a whole bunch of things going on in September, but she was interested in joining starting October.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, well, I'm going to close this ticket since you guys are in touch now. Thank you for handling that. And that's all we have open right now. So we got 20 minutes left on the clock. I don't know, guys, does it make sense to go into some discussion about the Lumio voting process, or do you want to save that for when we have more time? Any thoughts?
Well, 20 minutes is a chunk of time. I think we could begin to discuss it.
All right, well, so here's the notes that I put down. Discussion prior to voting. So this was something that was already agreed upon previously. It seems that maybe some people weren't aware of it, but there was a vote taken already on this, and we did agree as a community that new proposals should be put up as a discussion first. They should be left for at least a week to allow open discussion, and then it should be turned into a voting proposal. We shouldn't go straight to voting. So I guess on this point, I just want to make sure that we all still agree with that. Does that still make sense? Do we want to just kind of reiterate that as the recommended or the policy, the recommended approach for this? Any thoughts on discussion prior to voting?
It does seem like there it wasn't so clear. So figuring out, if we say that this is how we want to do things, but you still are able to sort of create a proposal the other way.
Yeah.
I think it's either on us to sort of flag things right away and say, and kind of guide people through the correct process, or if it's possible to sort of change the navigation.
Well,
I
unfortunately,
think you're right. I think it probably is the case that you can set permissions such that anyone can start a discussion, but only admins can start a vote. And that would be a good way to make sure that people don't blunder off the path.
That's an interesting thought. When you do start the vote, though, you do have to put in the details. So I guess we could copy and paste that from the discussion right up, but we'd have to figure that out. But that's
Right.
a good one to explore. Let's see, maybe just permissions so that only admins can start a voting proposal.
I think
right.
also,
Similarly, I'm sorry, Ben. Similarly, the question of the duration of a vote should probably, if possible, also be under control of the admins, not the individual. I think it's asking a lot of people who are new to the system or not administrating it to keep track of all of these things. So,
Well, so
if we can put some guardrails there also.
Yeah, that's the next topic here. So extensions of voting deadlines. We never really defined how long. I think discussion can run as long as people want, right? If you feel more discussion is needed, extend it, let it go as long as you want. But once we start a vote, we should probably establish a period of time. To me, I'll just say it feels like maybe a 2-week period is appropriate. 1 week feels a little bit short, and I think longer than 2 weeks is too long. So I would suggest maybe a standard 2-week duration for all voting, but I'm open to suggestions. What do you guys think?
I think
2
that's what
weeks
it's
sounds
been.
right to me.
I think there was some documentation saying that it should be 2 weeks.
Was there? Okay, I didn't remember that, but let's again clarify. So let's say voting should be for 2 weeks and with no extensions.
I have an amendment on that, though, which is that one weakness of the system is that if a change is made to the proposal, people ought to have a chance to change their vote if they want to get on board now that the modifications have been made. And so
well, that's already built into the process, John, because when you make an update to the proposal, assuming they notify correctly, everyone that has voted should get a notification of that update, and then they're free to change their vote. Maybe
my point is that if that happens the night before the proposal terminates, people don't have a chance.
Okay.
So my suggestion would be that the rule, I don't know if Lumio can enforce this, but it seems to me it would be appropriate to have a couple of days when votes can be changed, but not new votes or new voters entered, in order to give.
Well, I agree with
opportunity.
the idea of no changes to proposals I put within 48 hours of the closing deadline. That makes sense. I'm not as
that's another way of doing it, of course. Yes.
I'm not as much in favor of saying no voting. I don't see any problem with somebody voting at the last minute. Do you?
Well, there is the concern that people may sign up at the last minute in order to push a proposal over the edge.
Well, that's a different issue.
We don't really have an opportunity to vet people. this would address that as well.
Well, here's one option. Right now, when somebody joins Lumio, as you know, John, it goes into a holding bucket and one of the admins needs to approve them before they can actually participate. Maybe we just agree on a policy that when there is a voting proposal in progress, we do not admit new members until the vote has closed, and then we'll go in and admit any members that are waiting. Maybe we just don't admit new people during a vote, and that would prevent that problem from, just going out and recruiting people to vote on your proposal.
That's interesting.
I mean,
Does that
partly
apply to the discussion period as well?
Doesn't need to. It's up to you. I mean, we said discussion can run as long as you want. So
That's right.
I mean, if we want people to be using Lumio, though, I mean, when somebody signs up or makes a proposal, that's a good opportunity to get more people involved. I mean, let's say here is a school that is proposing some new research that they want to do. They get their team involved, but also some colleagues at a few other universities to participate. I understand gaming the system, but it's the purpose of this is try to get as many people as possible involved. So
that's true. That's a good point.
And there's always the opportunity for one member to block it.
That's true too.
Let's just review that. I'm not really clear about the blocking.
Well, so let's, we're jumping around a little bit here,
operation.
but that's okay. Let me go down here to the requirements in voting, because this is, or calculation, sorry, because this is something that we need to review anyway. So the current rules for calculating a passing vote is that each project proposal must receive at least 15 agree votes with at least 80% of the total votes in support of the project. But we've said that the abstain votes do not count in the total. So essentially what you're saying is the number of agree votes as a percentage of the number of agree plus disagree votes. The abstain votes are ignored, which I don't like that. I didn't even remember that we set it up that way, but it was clear to me in a recent vote that we had several people that voted abstain who were saying, I really don't feel comfortable supporting this. And that really should have counted against. So I want to just propose something. One option that we could think about is switching to just a scoring system where I would suggest that each agree vote counts as a +1, each abstain vote counts as a -1, and each disagree vote would count as a -2. And then you just need to come up with a total net number of points of 15. The reason I'm proposing this is just having observed the system for some time now, I think people are pretty ready to agree. People are very agreeable when it comes to our proposals. When somebody actually has the conviction, when they feel strongly enough to disagree with the vote, I feel like that should carry more weight. I feel like people are so much more hesitant to stand up and say, no, this doesn't sound right. That's why I felt like disagreeing maybe should carry a -2 and an abstain vote a -1. And then if you add everything up with the agrees being a +1, abstains subtracting 1, and disagrees subtracting 2, a block vote, which we haven't talked about. If anybody uses a block vote, that would force a discussion in one of these town hall meetings. What we do with it there, we'd have to figure out, but that's how that stands currently. So what do you guys think about this kind of a scoring system, a +1, -1, -2 type system?
I think it's really interesting. I think that the automatic pie charts that Lumio produces may confuse the matter because, of course, okay, so that's it has connotations that communicate, equality of votes.
I got to find a better one to look at as an example here. Let's see, e-NABLE.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would also suggest is I've been under the assumption, and I think this has been the assumption the last 3 years that I've been here, that that agreeing is sort of one of the +1s. Actually, if you can find a vote, if you go back quite a bit, you can find some votes that include disagrees and agrees, and abstain seem like it would, if they're counted as a vote, but not, yeah. So if the person needs to get a certain amount of green, the abstains make it harder to get that green, but they don't necessarily, it's not like a negative. The
Yeah,
negative
but
to
it-
positive, I think, would be difficult.
Okay, so that's one option. We could say that your agree percentage has to be, 75% or 80% or whatever we
Yeah.
want. If we go that
I would
route,
be.
we just need to acknowledge that abstain and disagree carry the exact same weight. Disagree would not carry any more weight than abstain, which seems a little counterintuitive to me, but
I don't think that's. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, and sorry to cut you off, Jeremy. I just want to make sure. Two quick things. Number one, I don't think I'm super comfortable with a voting system where voting in one way carries more weight inherently than voting another way.
Okay.
And then, but I totally see where you're coming from. But I think maybe if we have that standard in place where a certain percentage of the aggregate vote has to hit that yes threshold, voting to abstain doesn't count one way or the other, except that it raises the threshold.
well, so then maybe it's our current rule is okay, except that we need to dispose of this clause that says that abstain votes are not counted in the total. If we just agree
That's how I feel. Yes.
So what we would be saying is that your proposal must have at least 15 agree votes with at least 80% of the total votes in support. And so that if we go back to this as an example, this one would not have passed because we were only at 74% approval. But had we had enough, just a couple more agree votes where this hit 80%, this would have been approved based on that scenario. So how do you guys feel about that, of just disposing of that clause that says abstain votes are not counted in this calculation?
I'm in favor.
Okay.
I do like this the best of what we've discussed.
Okay.
It is a little odd, maybe it's fine, but odd, that an abstain and a no are treated
the same,
the
yeah.
same. And secondly, let's remember that most people do not vote, and that's distinct from abstain. So
All right, those are down here.
that's right. I think maybe I like this because it allows people to gently dissent.
Without their vote being discarded, yeah.
That's
I
right.
like it. I definitely like it more than what we've done. I didn't even remember that it had been that way, and it makes so much more sense to me to include those. So yeah, I agree. It's imperfect that abstain and disagree are treated the same, but I think it's better than ignoring abstain votes.
Well, the way I see it, the way I see it is that a no vote raises the bar for the total percentage. Oh, I see what you mean, because it doesn't contribute. That's why you were thinking of applying a negative.
So the way to make a differentiation between the abstain and the disagree is sort of a value. So if you go back up to the top, so if you're saying that you need a certain percentage of yes votes, abstaining makes it so it raises the bar. But you could also say that it doesn't fly if you get a certain percentage of no votes, of disagrees. So you can make disagree.
That would be inherent in the equation, wouldn't it? I mean, if we say that you need at least 80% agree, then, anything, if you have more than 20% between disagree and abstain, it's not going to pass.
Well, I think maybe what Ben is saying is that if you could have 80% agree, but you have 15 no votes, then that would be an automatic disqualifier. And that, I think, Jeremy, would be the weight to the people with maybe caution in mind that you were aiming for with the -2.
Yeah, so it could be, let's say if it's 80% have to be for a project, you can say that somebody can block it. One person can say, okay, no, we have to have a discussion. Or you can say if 10%, if there's 10% disagreeing, that's also a required discussion or something like that. I mean, you could have a certain percentage of disagrees that go in the same direction as the block. And abstain is just basically saying, I'm not sure, we need more people to either agree or disagree. And it makes it sort of requires more activity, but it still supports the process. So if you do get an abstain, it goes towards the sort of the threshold of activity
It
to
does.
have
But
something
then what are we
pass.
saying about disagree? Are we saying a certain number of disagree votes would block it, or a certain?
I have
Yeah,
I have
go ahead, Chuck.
some comments.
I'd
I'm
say a
holding up three.
percentage. But
I'm
that's,
holding up three fingers because I'm trying to remember 3 points.
Okay.
The first one is I haven't heard. We want to discuss the block concept, which I still don't understand. Two is a way to another variation on this is to say an agree is a +1, a disagree is a -1, and an abstain simply increases the denominator. So that actually does honor the difference between them. And I've forgotten the third point.
it's not a -1 though. The problem is that you can come up with all these ideas, but working with the Lumio platform, we can't, the disagrees don't actually take away any of the agrees. They
Yeah.
they establish,
Well, but the threshold for
you can have a percent, you can have numbers,
passage.
but you're not going to be able to have a negative. That's just not
No,
something
no,
that I
no,
don't think is built
that's
into it.
not my point. My point is, no. The threshold for passage is not built into Lumia. And we could have, for example, the formula that says agree minus disagree must be greater than 15, and agree over total must be greater than 80%.
Sure.
We could. I'm just thinking in turn. We need to keep it as simple as possible. We want to avoid complexity.
No, I don't think we're there yet, but
So maybe a simpler version of that is going by the numbers shown in Lumio. We could say you need at least. We should come up with a total number of votes that need to be cast. Like maybe it's 20 votes.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What if we did away with the, whether it's a net yes value or a gross number of yeses as one of the requirements? What if we did away with that entirely and instead just said it has to be a certain percentage and a certain number of votes have to be cast?
So for example, we could say minimum 20 votes total with 80% approval. Done.
Bingo.
But you can say that, but then agree and disagree, or I'm sorry, abstain and disagree are doing the same thing. So that's why establishing something specific, if you say and, it's 80% agree, but one block funnels it into a different process, or a certain percentage of disagrees funnels it into a different process. That might be something that.
Okay, so what do we think? 10% disagree would put it into that discussion process?
10% of the total?
10% of the total votes. For example, here, three disagree votes was 13%.
Right.
I have, my thought on that is that 20 minutes flies when you're having fun. That we're not going to resolve this right now.
No, we won't. You're right.
But we certainly got into it.
We've made progress.
That's right. That's right.
Okay,
I just
so
want to know
I'm going to bail for my next meeting, and I look forward to continuing the discussion. And when we continue the discussion, another question is, I think that we have to market this decision. I don't think it's merely the three of us who should simply resolve this. It's for the responsibility of town hall to resolve this. But before we do resolve it, I think we should let people know that there's a special town hall meeting where we're going to review this and try to resolve it. But
or put it
I
up for a
think that
vote.
means that next week we continue the discussion, and the following week we have another
we will continue this next week. And like Ben said, once we feel comfortable with what we've come up with, we'll write it up as a discussion thread on Lumio. Let's get the community talking about it, and then we'll put it to a vote like everything else.
But then the question is, how do we determine
how do we
calculate
the Yes. Okay. Well, that'll be an interesting. Let's just assume that this is going to get enough positive voting that it'll be approved in either framework, which I think it will. Usually, these types of administrative votes, we think them through well enough that I expect we'll have pretty much unanimous approval. So I think that's a good place to leave it here. Let's give ourselves time to think about this. I'm going to keep all these things here in the notes. We've come up with a few good options. We still have other things that we didn't get to, like whether or not we want to tell people you cannot block on your own, vote on your own proposals, which I think we should. The idea of going and recruiting people actively from outside of e-NABLE to come in and vote. We have to talk about that. And then, maybe requirements to participate in voting. Maybe you have to have joined the hub and introduced yourself. We'll talk about maybe you need a badge. I don't know, but those are things we need to talk about here as well. So let's leave it at that for now, and we'll revisit it again next week or when time permits. Once we feel comfortable, like I said, we'll write it up and get input from the community. We're not going to make this decision unanimously, of course. This is going to be
That's great. Obviously, this also is a good topic for the new leadership to think about in case the old leadership is locked into old thinking.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I welcome anyone. Okay, anyone else have anything real quick? You want to show us your finger real quick before we wrap up here, Rick? Not your finger, but the finger you're making, You're muted.
You're muted. I have to go. Goodbye.
Okay, thanks, John. You want to
Oh,
show
I'm
us your
good.
finger, Rick?
Thanks.
No? Rick, no?
I'm trying to find my mute.
Oh, you're not going to show us your finger?
Oh, I thought I was. Oh, it's we're making some progress on version 2. It's it actually has a lot more movement, natural movement than what we had on the last version. And it's very quick and very light. It weighs about 10% of what the last one did.
Very nice.
So we're getting there, and we actually have a hand now that has a full set, minus a thumb. We still haven't got the thumb finished. It's on the bench right now, but
That's great.
unbelievably strong. We were able to pick up an enormous amount of weight with it. One finger was able to. The only breaking point was actually
it's going to be where
thread,
it attaches,
which was a 150-pound thread. So.
Yeah.
The material itself is rated at 2,400 pounds, so I don't really know what the breaking point was.
Nice, probably the rest of your arm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know Ben has another meeting to get to. I just wanted to see that real quick. So we'll wrap it up for now and see you guys next week. All right. See ya.
Ben, your meeting is on? Wait, you're actually on a Google one. Do we have to get off of this one, right?
Yeah, I set it up on the Google because that way you'd be able to log into Zoom at the same time.
Smart.
No worries.
All right. See you guys.